Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding a truly fascinating new paradigm in rural engineering. And honestly, it's a concept that challenges pretty much everything we've come to accept about how human settlements grow and connect. It's called straight-line civilization. We're going to explore how bringing strict mathematical and structural discipline to rural landscapes can literally revolutionize everyday life, local economies, and infrastructure. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. What if a village was never forced to wait for roads to slowly reach it? Think about it. For agonizing decades, rural communities have basically been defined by compromise. They've just been forced to exist at the mercy of leftover geography. But imagine a village that isn't isolated. A village that isn't just sitting there passively hoping that eventually, maybe through years of bureaucratic meandering and accidental planning, a paved road might slowly snake its way to their doorstep. We are completely discarding that old reality today. Instead, we're imagining a system where villages are connected directly, deliberately, and structurally right from the very beginning. And that fundamental shift in thinking brings us to a real core contrast: expansion through randomness versus expansion through structured geometry. Historically, rural roads have been these winding, accidental paths. They were shaped by total chance, avoiding a tough obstacle here, following some old animal tracks there, or just tracing the easiest topological route. It's totally reactionary. But on the flip side, we have this new vision of expansion through structured geometry. This is about drawing deliberate, straight lines between human centers with absolute intention. It's the difference between waiting for development to accidentally bump into you versus engineering a direct pipeline for development to flow right through. To really appreciate how revolutionary this is, we have to start at phase 1, isolated islands of rural life. Right now, as it stands today, villages basically exist as scattered dots. They're completely cut off from broader economic currents, and it's simply because the paths connecting them are just so incredibly inefficient. So, to fix this, the straight-line civilization model introduces a foundational concept, the village square. Now, we aren't just talking about an informal gathering space under a big tree here. In this new paradigm, the village square is an officially designated anchor point, fully recognized by the government. It acts as the actual structural hub for planned connection. By formalizing this center point, you suddenly have a concrete, undeniable geographic anchor to base an entire engineering system around. It's absolutely crucial. And once you have those legally recognized anchors in place, you can start applying the math. Which brings us to phase 2, the geometric rule. This is exactly where those scattered, isolated islands start becoming a real network. And that rule relies entirely on one absolute metric: the number 5. Specifically, 5 kilometers. The whole system is designed so that if any officially designated village square lies within exactly 5 kilometers of another, an automatic rule is triggered. And guys, it's not a polite suggestion. It is a strict developmental mandate based purely on distance and geometry. So what actually happens when that 5-kilometer threshold is met? Well, the 5-kilometer rule demands a direct, straight-line connection of absolute engineering clarity. That means no detours, no indirect paths whatsoever. It completely bypasses that traditional habit of routing roads around every minor geographical inconvenience. Instead, it mandates a purposeful, totally straight corridor. If 2 hubs are within 5 kilometers of each other, they absolutely must be linked by a straight line. It forces a connection that is engineered, deliberate, and undeniably direct. Now we move from the abstract lines on a map to the physical dirt and concrete. Phase 3, anatomy of the corridor. The source text makes it very clear that this is not meant to be some narrow, dusty little track. It is a highly structured corridor of civilization. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we zoom into the micro-level physical build of this road. Let's actually visually build this road together, starting right from the center and moving out. Step 1. It starts with a minimum 2-lane roadway, carrying movement in both directions, separated by a 1-meter median to enforce strict discipline in the traffic flow. Step 2. Moving outward, we add a safety buffer to give some breathing space to the motion, and that's flanked by tree lines that form these incredible living walls of ecology and shade. Step 3. Beneath the surface lies the unseen intelligence of the whole infrastructure. 1-meter stormwater drainage canals on both sides, silently protecting the land from collapsing under monsoon forces. And finally, step 4, a 2-meter service platform on each outer edge. This is a dedicated, safe space where people can walk, maintain the area, and interact with the system. When you combine all of these structural elements, you aren't just building a road, you're constructing a multi-layer infrastructure spine. Because the route is perfectly straight, people move faster. Goods move directly without spoilage or lost time. Crucially, emergencies respond immediately. An ambulance doesn't have to play guessing games about which winding dirt path is passable today. And overall, infrastructure grows predictably because that geometric spine is already firmly in place. It fundamentally accelerates every single aspect of rural life. All right, let's zoom back out to the macro level. Applying this straight line rule over and over across a region triggers a massive network effect. We call this phase 4, the continuous economic fabric. This is where the region stops being distinct, separate dots and totally transforms into one integrated living web. And this brilliantly illustrates what that network effect actually means on a human level. Let's look at the stakes here. For the farmer, the old reality meant traveling in exhausting, endless loops just to reach a nearby market. The straight line reality, it offers direct, fast access to commerce, which means better profits and way less wasted time. For an ambulance driver, the old reality was frantically searching for passable paths in the dark. The straight line reality guarantees an immediate, unobstructed emergency response. And for a student, relying on indirect, unreliable routes is instantly replaced by a direct, totally predictable path to educational opportunity. We're literally grounding a lofty mathematical concept into life-changing, everyday human realities. And because of these deeply personal transformations, the entire dynamic of the community shifts. Villages stop behaving as isolated, lonely units, and they lock together into neighbor nodes of a single continuous network. Markets merge, creating much larger, more robust local economies. Services align, meaning a well-equipped clinic in one village can effectively serve all the surrounding nodes. And infrastructure synchronizes. It allows power grids, water lines, and internet cables to just easily follow these predictable straight-line corridors. The rural landscape stops being fragmented, and it becomes connected by pure design. Distance is not a barrier when design is honest. Take a second to let that sink in. This is really the philosophical climax of the whole concept. It argues that the real enemy of rural development was actually never just physical miles. The enemy was a lack of intentional design. When we engineer honestly, directly, and with a crystal clear structural purpose, we completely erase the isolating effects of distance. And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. We've seen exactly how structured geometry can redefine rural connectivity, turning isolated islands into a thriving, continuous economic fabric. But I want to leave you with this one provocative thought before we go. How else can structured geometry redefine the way we live? Think about it. If applying mathematical clarity to dirt roads can literally save lives and revolutionize local economies, what other chaotic systems out there are just waiting for a straight-line solution? Keep questioning the design of the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.